So then...
You never existed.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, no.
Everything came into question all at once. Just my whole existence, my pants, everything.
Well, welcome, everybody, to Denver Music Gear Podcast. I'm Jacob.
I'm Dylan.
And we're here at Flipside Music talking...
You never existed. Yep,
Whoa.
See? Time is literally folding in on itself.
And we didn't really know what we were going to talk about today, but we realized...
Yeah, a little more open-ended.
Hopefully we realized before today that it was tax day yesterday.
Yes.
So
hopefully you guys did too.
Yes. I did mine like at noon yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, this year was a little disappointing having to pay. It is nice when you get that, because actually too, like even customers even say that sometimes, and it's like you never really know until you do it. But a lot of customers kind of bank on getting, like a bonus purchase whenever that rolls back in.
I love the bonus purchase.
Yes.
I would not be Maris rich.
Yes. Yeah.
If it wasn't for tax. Mm-hmm. Those purchases probably wouldn't have been made without that tax refund.
Yeah. Well, and luckily they were released incrementally, so you weren't out, on the spot for all of them all at once.
I think it was 3 years worth.
Was it
of
3?
taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a good payoff. That's a good way to look at it too.
Yeah.
I think when you, especially because I think a lot of people look at it when they get a refund of like they worked. Yes, you could obviously try to do the more grown-up thing and save it, but like also you got to be nice to yourself sometimes. So.
And I've gotten my money's worth out of those pedals.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. Like, I haven't used a set of pedals probably more than those.
Yeah, 100%.
Since owning them, because I don't know if y'all know, but we do a live stream every Monday night around 9 called Maris Monday with our group Blue Pink Little Shoe.
Yeah, about 2.5 hours of ambient improv.
Yeah, and those pedals make it very easy to conjure sci-fi sounds and...
Well, I've never, and I don't know that I will ever again. Hopefully. I guess I shouldn't cut things off. You never know what happens. But I've never had a pedal of any kind where I could keep coming back, literally every week and, like, finding new things and getting more out of it. Like, that's the part that's so fun about those.
Yeah.
Because, nothing else I've ever owned in terms of, gear or pedals. Because, obviously, there's always more to discover in the guitar itself. But when it comes to, like, effects, being able to make your own stuff and kind of having a blank canvas to start with all the time, it's definitely a very different experience. Honestly, even kind of teaches you, like, how certain effects are even achieved.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're like me at all, like, I really love a lot of older movies, and I love a lot of the soundtracks of older movies. And so, like, being able to kind of make some of those weird sounds that, you'll kind of look into how they made it, but, obviously you're never going to have access to those weird, mechanical giant plate reverbs or any of that stuff, but learning, like, how they used that stuff to get those sounds, it's kind of, I would say, like, the Maris pedals have actually, like, educated me.
Yeah.
Which I can't say a pedal has ever really done that before.
And it's very cool, like, I just got into the editor, and I know y'all have been preaching the gospel of the editor for a while, but it totally unlocks. It's like I have a brand new pedal. I've had that pedal for 2.5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like I got a whole new pedal. I discovered sounds that have been in there the whole time that I didn't know were there.
Well, like, I even found modes and things of stuff that I didn't know was until I got it. Because, like, it just having everything there right on the page is way different than kind of having to, trip and fall through the menus to find it. Because, like, even the series mode, because I think Eric and I both use the series mode on the LVX all the time now. And that was, like, a setting that, like, on the menu, it's, like, just kind of just hidden enough, deep enough that sometimes you don't find it, so.
Yeah. It's it's so vast of a sonic palette tool.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because you're really only limited to, like, what you can think. Yeah. And that's really, like, like I said, I've never had a pedal or especially a series of 3 pedals that gives you that option. And honestly, too, it's like some of the overlap with each one is something I actually am starting to appreciate even more. Because it's like if you have one doing one job and you need the other to kind of supplement something, you have that option, and it's all kind of there. Where, other things usually you'd be kind of pairing, a string of multiple effects to even get one sound that you would get out of what we do with the Maris pedals. So.
And if you're not familiar, the pedals we're talking about are the Maris LVX, the Maris Mercury X, and the Maris Enzo X, which are a modular delay, modular reverb, and modular synth.
Yes. Yeah, and the synth too, like that's another one too. I feel like Maris doesn't get enough attention for the fact that they delivered an actual full synth in the pedal.
That you don't need any kind of wacky pickup or some sort of workaround to make it work. You can plug your guitar straight in, and it works.
Yes.
It is awesome.
And it's like one of the most complete ones. So like having those bits of ambience in there with the echo and reverbs, having the modulation, like it's a complete package of a synth. It's not just the raw synth sounds. Because I feel like most of the really good synth pedals out there, they do a good job. Like I've owned the Source Audio C4. I've owned the SY1 and the SY200 at different points.
From Boss.
From Boss. And both of those, while I still think they're both awesome, they're very, like, going back to them now feels very dry and kind of like you're getting some of the picture, but not the whole picture.
Yeah, without all that the flange and some reverb.
Well, because honestly, like I've just, since we've been doing what we've been doing, like I've started to explore effects that I used to like not really use. Like flange was not something I used heavily. Chorus was not something I really used very heavily. Definitely didn't get into like some of the glitchy stuff as much as I do now, for sure. So for me, like it's definitely been kind of coming from like drier kind of effects to getting into more like as crazy and ambient as you can, and then anywhere in between. Like it is kind of nice having that freedom. So.
And it may seem they're a little pricey. They're around $600, right?
Yes, each one is. Yeah.
But
U.S.
the amount of things you get for that, it's a deal and a half.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. No, again, like
one delay, one flanger, and one preamp pedal. You're already well over
100%
that.
Yeah. Well, even the Mercury, for an example, like, so Terry actually, like, the chorus that's built into it is actually based on an old 70s Electro-Harmonix small clone that Terry had. Then I believe patch 1 and 2 on the Mercury are also based on the work that they did with Chase Bliss doing the Dark World and the
CXM 1978.
Yes. And so it's been, like, to me, like, right there, I mean, if you were to add those three things up, you're already, like, past $1,200.
Oh, yeah, the CXM is a $900 pedal on its own.
Yeah, so, like, if you were just to add those things, well, and then, the Dark World was at least, well, I know it was, like, $350 when it came out.
Yes.
So, and then if you were to buy a vintage, small clone from the 70s, like, I'm sure that would set you back at least somewhere in the $400 to $600 range. I'm not sure the going range for that one specifically these days. But again, like just those first three things is, more than, double or triple the cost of the pedal. So.
Oh yeah. And to have something that you can rediscover over and over and over, it's invaluable. Like, like the.
Well, because I thought I was worried about like underutilizing it. And like now, the further I get into it, it's more like, again, like once you know how to use it, your only limitation is yourself at that point.
Yeah, there was a feature I'd wanted on some pedals
you mentioned that
for a long, long time, and it's weird that it's not a thing. But putting an expression pedal on the drive control of an overdrive or a distortion or whatever. But you can add that to like the hold function or
kind of do a ramp up with the gain.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's something I've always wanted, and it's right there.
Yeah, there's a setting
to build.
I tried with the bit crushing. I just pulled the bits down, so it was almost kind of more fuzzy, but kind of did the same thing. And like it is pretty cool when you get those ramp ups, because like the harmonics get all kind of weird as it goes along. So it's definitely a fun thing. And you're right, like now that you mentioned that, gain attached to expression or even volume volume and gain attached to expression is not super common. There are pedals that have done it, like definitely a few come to mind, but it's not anything that's ever entered the market as like a standard option.
I know Demadash out of Canada made one because I asked him directly to make one.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, I was working on something like that already." But he went all out. There's like an LFO that you can attach to it,
which is also pretty cool.
It's like it's a wild.
It's kind of like an auto swell, but with real gain and character. Yeah, that's cool.
This is very cool.
Yeah, no, I think Boss did the with the OD 200. I believe you can attach expression on that guy, and then was it Voodoo? I can't remember because Voodoo had the Sparkle Drive, obviously that had the clean blend, but I can't remember if they also released one where you could attach an expression to that blend because that one was kind of an interesting one. And then, well, I know like some of like the brothers, you're able to do that via MIDI if you go in via that.
The Chase Bliss stuff, you can definitely do that kind of thing with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones that come to mind. I think Vertex maybe dabbled in that, but that was with their boost.
And that was pull just the volume pedal out of your chain.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah,
that was
kind of supplementing volume instead of or in the boost slot, but.
Yeah, that was a very cool pedal. That was I guess that's a interesting bit of topic of like, what are the next innovative things?
Oh, sure.
Because like I saw someone talking about Old Blood in particular with their new Sidewinder. Is that what it's called? The new reverse pedal?
Oh,
that is not Sidewinder.
No. Something back?
The Setback.
Setback, that's it.
I think the Sidewinder is the Demadash.
Oh, okay.
Pedal.
But yeah, no, the Setback. Yeah, I'm pretty interested with it. I thought it was actually going to be in by now, but it didn't arrive yet. But I'm very curious about that one because that's based on like the reverse, obviously, that they did in the BL series, but with presets and MIDI and like that thing looks really cool.
It's very cool. But somebody had mentioned in one of the comments of like they're really happy with Old Blood because they don't just make another Tube Screamer. They're trying to forward think. What can we do next? With MIDI, with this, with that, stereo,
Yeah, they always feel like they give you exactly everything you need, and then a little extra. Mm-hmm. Like that's the one thing with them. Like you always get a little bit more than what you would get from just because like a lot of times. I mean, there's great simple pedals out there, and for certain things. I think simplicity is the thing. Like I love simplicity with boosts and overdrives and even some modulation stuff. Like simplicity is obviously a good thing, but I think there's certain things like the reverse honestly is a candidate because like that was one that you find so many interesting things along the way playing with one of those pedals, being able to basically have presets that are little captures of those things. Like to me, like that's an amazing thing where you're getting more out of like you're already taking up that space on your board. So like getting more out of it, I think is kind of maybe the next thing, especially as like everybody gets used to more complicated boards.
So do you think that like with like the Benson and Deep Sea Diver Fuzz Echo, do you think it'll go more like that route, like where the companies will just start combining a couple things?
Kind of hybrids are giving you a more complete kind of
And like here's my flavor of this thing, this idea, an echo attached to a reverb, which isn't new, but someone's take on that, or like a chorus and a reverb, or a chorus and a fuzz, or.
That is a good question because I would say. You're sort of as you're mysticizing, it kind of drills in on where things, because I feel like I guess maybe things are getting more specific, but that is because so many things have been covered at this point that like it's hard not to. So I would say like we're almost getting into like rather than pedals being like, hey, we're giving you a full coloring set, like hey, we're giving you this cool new hybrid color. Like it's super specific. Like they're rather than give you like this crazy palette of stuff.
Well, and it got me thinking about food, of course.
Yeah,
of like
always easy.
The like sushi burrito.
Oh sure.
Like okay, we're gonna take these two things that you love,
fusion,
sushi,
kind of fusion,
and a burrito thing, and be like, bam.
Yeah.
And so we're going to take your favorite flange and your least favorite fuzz.
Yeah.
But it's going to make this like
gyros tacos or something.
super amazing thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not your least favorite, but like.
No, I see what you're saying. But yeah, no, I would even say too, like with certain artists, the deep sea diver actually, since that you brought that one up, that one is a great example of like, that is sort of like if you were to encapsulate that band and her sound into one little thing, it literally does that perfectly. And I would say we are getting into that vein of things where like signature pedals, some of them are more exploratory, but a lot of them now I feel like are getting very, very specific, which I don't know. I guess I feel two ways about that because like there's even like, so as I've been exploring some video ideas recently, I've been thinking about like is it good to kind of pull off the curtain on certain people's sounds? Does that make sense? Revealing like how those things are done, is that a good thing? Because it's like I personally love knowing how things are done. I love knowing how to get there myself with certain sounds. But at the same time, like I guess as the artist, does the artist feel so like John Dwyer from the OCs, for instance, like he's somebody that like there's so many guitarists now that are dabbling, especially like King Gizzard, that are kind of taking something that would be pretty signature to his sound, which is kind of that ricocheting kind of echo thing that he does, because he does it with vocals and guitar. But it's one of those things of like when I was kind of getting into it of like, is it cool to let people know how to do that stuff, because then everybody can kind of do it, and like does that take the signature part of it away, I guess? Because like I said, I don't know how to feel about it. It's weird.
Yeah, because like I've always felt this way when people will come in and ask for. There's like 3 guitarists whose tone lately people ask for: John Mayer, John Frusciante, or Kurt Cobain.
Yeah,
and
there's been a big Kurt Cobain resurgence.
And it's like, okay, that's a good jumping off point.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also, they're not using things that are like super esoteric.
No,
they're using
some
very,
of the
like
vanilla
run of the mill things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and a lot of times too, like some of those guys are guys that you could plug them into anything that's kind of adjacent to what they were playing, and they would still sound like them. So
there's not a lot of room for exploring your own thing.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. On the one hand, grabbing someone's pedal board and doing your thing with it is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also taking someone's pedal board and just being like, I need to find their exact tone. If that's the end game, I guess that's a worthy journey to go on.
Mm.
But like, as an artist, I like finding those things that are... Like, I like to learn what they use, so maybe I don't buy those things.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're using a Boss DS1. Okay, I'll try it. Oh, that did not work for me.
Yes.
It doesn't fit into my style or my playing really at all.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I've kind of run into some of that. Because, like, sometimes you do want, I think we all want a taste of, like, our artists, our favorite artist's sound. Because, like, that's what makes you fall in love with guitar in the first place, for a lot of people anyway, is, like, you kind of fall in love with the sound of a certain player or players, and eventually, yeah, I think as you kind of go through things, you eventually bust out of that thing where you're pursuing a very specific sound, and you're kind of, like, taking little bits of things that you've learned along the way to make your own sound. I think eventually that's where a lot of people obviously end up. And some people just skip to that. Because, I mean, that happens sometimes too. But I would say we do get, like, for sure, there's a lot of players that come in that are, like, after a certain player's sound. And I think that that's fine, but it's also one of those things, like, sometimes it's not, like you said, because it's not always complicated, sometimes it comes down to more, like, the player rather than just the gear. And I would say, like, because even, like, Mark from Krongvin, I forget, is it Mark Sampson or Simpson? Sampson? I'm terrible with names. I know his name is Mark.
Spear.
Oh, is it Spear? There you go. Okay. I don't know where Samson Simpson. Well, I don't know. Anyway, so Mark from Cronwin.
Way
Yeah,
off.
I was way. Yeah,
No.
not even. Yeah.
Samsonite.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know where that came from. But he is one that like a lot of people, because I actually use this as an example quite often lately. A lot of his sound is really just him with a deluxe reverb, usually like a little bit of reverb or trem, and then
he uses a Boss DS1.
DS1, and he uses it more like a boost, which is interesting. But again, at the end of the day, like his rig is almost as accessible and as like standard as it could kind of get. A lot of his playing is like really choices, like the scales and things he's playing, the styles he's playing, because it's not like a lot of their music is kind of like real steady kind of lounge style music, but it's like if you want to play and sound like that, the only option is to kind of dive in more to, I would even say, like his influences of like how he got there more than like where he is now, because like for me at least as a player, that kind of sent me on a road like all the way back. Was like I got into, when I first got into playing guitar, I was more into like metal and a lot of that stuff. Found out what they were listening to. That obviously sends you right back to Tony Iommi and Sabbath. And then from there, that was where I feel like things actually opened up more for me of like looking into blues, some jazz, and kind of getting into these more, some of these more psychedelic players that kind of influenced him. Was more eye-opening than like just focusing on him. And because I would say again, like with certain sounds, yeah, it's really cool to try to get those things, but like he's a person that like it's not really, I don't want to say that it's not possible. You can get real close, but like there's so many little factors that play into his sound that like it's kind of a exercise in futility of trying to get it 100%.
Well, and then like on my path, I never plugged in a big muff and an Echoplex and a high watt, but eventually I arrived at David Gilmour's tone without those things.
Yes, yeah.
It's just searing, searing distortion or fuzz, some sort of delay, some sort of reverb, and you're there. And you're like, oh, now I'm Pink Floyd.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and you're maybe not, but
but like you can't. You are right. Like
you don't need those exact pieces of thing to achieve the thing, and it was fun to arrive to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just be like, well, I need big muff, Echoplex, high watt.
Yes.
This Strat.
No, yeah, and I would say that's actually the harder part of like knowing what you actually do need versus knowing what you can make do with. Like until you start kind of getting more into this stuff, that's probably the hardest part of like, I feel like at least for beginners of like, you just don't even know. You assume, I guess, or at least it's easy to assume as a beginner that you would have to have those exact things. Because that is off. We kind of do talk about, actually, this is a good kind of natural conversation we're getting into, because you brought up Big Muffs. Like I've been going through Gene's box of Big Muff surprises. And it sounds funny, but
okay,
well, it's just like he's
Big
got
Muff surprise.
Well, he's got like all these different builders. Like there's stuff from Australia, there's stuff from Canada, there's stuff from New York, there's stuff from Portland. There's like all kinds of stuff in there. But it's been it's been interesting kind of going back through that stuff because like yes, it's all stuff that I've played throughout the course of like the last, I don't know, 6-7 years since Gene's been coming in regularly, but like being able to actually be like, okay, I'm going to play this riff with this piece, then I'm going to hear it with these other things, just so I can kind of pick out those differences. And then you start to kind of getting into like, especially with Big Muffs, I would say a lot of it is like, yes, there are differences. And yes, as guitar players, we love to nitpick about some of those differences. But at the end of the day, like especially with a lot of the Big Muffs, like you kind of have two main groups of them. And when you're in one of those groups, everything eventually you can kind of get all of those things to sound pretty damn similar. Like just because, like you said with Gilmour, like just because he played a 73 or 74 Ram's head doesn't mean you need that specific one that was made that year by Electro-Harmonic. Like there are so many makers out there, because like playing some of Matt from Stomp Underfoot stuff, where I was literally A-Bing like the real thing with the thing that he made that was a reproduction, And like it was one of the first times where I was like, okay, if you dial things just right, they are literally identical. And it wasn't like, because on that side of things, I feel like I am pretty accurate, at least of discerning those little minute differences at this point. And like it was one of those things where I'm like, these are not even. It's not even a 5% difference. It was like maybe 1 or 2%, like nothing that's worth that price discrepancy. And then that kind of gets further into what you were saying of like sometimes you can even pull things that are technically distortions, and if they kind of fuzz out, you can kind of cop a big muff tone. Same thing with big muffs, like if you kind of drive the tone higher, you can kind of cop a weird kind of overdrive. So it's just like knowing how to use the stuff you have to do what you want to do is more valuable, but also takes more time.
Well, and I was also thinking about this the other day of like, there's a lot of talk on the internet about this thing or that thing and how this sounds and what this is and whatever.
Yeah.
But if you've never played it or heard one in person, you actually don't have a frame of reference. And I'll use like Marshall amplifiers as a thing. Like if you're not diming it and playing it as loud as can be, it's maybe not even breaking up and doing the distortion heavy metal thing.
Yes.
It might even be super clean until you
because I think like
get it to ear splitting volume.
Yeah, like with what you're saying, like the people's perceptions of plexis versus what plexis actually do and sound
well, even
like.
just Marshall.
Well, yeah, but like that,
even like without getting into the specifics, it's like, well, a Marshall's going to be distorted.
Well,
it's like, well, not necessarily.
Well, and I would say that specifically kind of that is the most prominent one that I would say is misunderstood in that way, though, of like people think of it as like this gainy rock and roll amp, but like you said, until you push that thing to its limits, and sometimes until you push it to its limits with a good boost, then you get there. Then you get that sound. But yeah, it's not like it just comes out of the box, you turn it up a little bit, and it's this gain monster or anything. Like, it's definitely not that.
And like, even, at this point, we know a lot about how these records, these classic records were made and stuff, but I think people still forget that sometimes those monstrous distortion tones that you think are a Marshall are really a Champ, just holding on for dear life.
Yeah, or like Billy Gibbons, like a lot of the early, ZZ Top stuff that sounds super, super gainy and chunky is just a Tweed Deluxe that's about to, blow up.
Give up the ghost.
Yeah. Same thing with like Neil Young. Like that was, obviously everybody has their kind of opinions on things, but like he has some pretty gnarly sounds for the time period. And again, it's he's using a smaller low wattage amp with low efficiency speakers, and like that's just the sound that you got when you turned it all the way up. And I think that is a big misconception, especially that you say that with Marshalls. And the reason I guess I drilled in on Plexi was mainly because of like Hendrix and Cream and a lot of that, where like they expect this saturated gainy kind of thing, and you play a real one, especially if you play one without a master volume. You play one and it's like it's not that at all until you get to those upper limits.
And you can't even get there.
No, you can't even be in the room, or you can't be in a small room with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're destroying your hearing and your like it's just not even.
It's not pleasant until
it is not pleasant.
Yeah. But yeah, if in the right space and the right circumstances.
Sure.
Like
in a recording studio where you're maybe in the
exactly
second room.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a big one too. That probably, if you've never seen that done, that's probably an easy misconception too. Because like I never really understood that until I actually saw somebody do it. Like especially with the Princeton. Like I remember when Jake and Connor were recording one time, and like going into the studio and seeing Jake record, and it was literally just a dimed Princeton in another room. But like hearing the sound versus knowing what it was too wild, because like I was just used to Princeton's maybe at like 3 or 4 here.
That has like a nice kind of edge of breakup.
Yeah, but still mostly clean. Sounds like a Fender, but not like like you said, not dead clean. But yeah, it was just kind of such an interesting thing because it was like it was such a awesome kind of searing sound. And if you have the option of doing that, cool. But most people definitely don't anymore.
No, and that's where like your 2 notes or your aux boxes or like things like that really come into play, where you can plug them in, turn them up to where the power tubes are doing the thing.
Yeah.
and it's not ear splitting volume.
Yeah.
You can like control it. It's coming through your monitor speakers or your well controlled cabinet or something.
Yeah. Well, and I would even say like some of that knowledge of like the real world kind of physicality of certain amps somewhat helps with some of the modelers, because I know you and I have like kind of gone back and forth with some of the UA stuff of like it's kind of hard to get, especially like Fenders are a good example, like the Showtime plugin that they have. That one does a really good job of being like a nice responsive clean, and it stays clean, like even if you kind of push it stays cleaner, whereas like like the Woodrow or even like the Lion, like some of the other ones, like yes, you can get clean tones out of those, but it's really hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
I don't understand why the Dream is so hard to get clean out of.
Especially with an amp that's kind of synonymous with like crystal clean tones that most people are like, that's what they're looking for first.
My favorite clean tone out of that line of amps comes out of the Lion.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no,
which is the Marshall style thing.
Yeah, and it's funny, because it's like really warm, but like very responsive, clean sounds out of that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like knowing those things about those amps, or even what they should, kind of sound like is a good idea. But obviously, like you said, not everybody's going to have those options.
And that's, I think, where digital really shines, is that you can taste all of these things in their like ideal situation. Mm-hmm. Like, you can hear, if you pull up like a saturated orange model, a saturated Marshall model, and a saturated like Mesa Boogie.
Yes.
You can actually like hear the sonic differences in those modelers if they're done well, of course.
Yeah.
But you'll notice like, there's a mid-range thing that's different in the Mesa Boogie, that's different in the Marshall, that's different in the orange. And that's like that's why they're different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, at that point, it is kind of, I mean, I guess like to think of sounds as colors sometimes, but it is sort of that same thing of like Marshalls and oranges have a lot more overlap, but certain Mesa Boogie amps, like the Mark series, do actually have more in common with, with those things than you would think. Because like I think a lot of people also, when some people say Boogie, like I think a lot of people think only rectifiers, which, to me is, it's not wrong in any way. It's just kind of a limited take on like what that company offers. But that is also the same thing of like when you're on the internet and you're just like looking into things, or you're looking into an artist and it says that they used Marshalls, or they used Mesa Boogies, or they used oranges. Like even that can be pretty misleading, and an easy thing to be like, okay, well if I just get something in that ballpark, they must all be kind of the same.
Mm-hmm. I'll just get an orange, and it's like, well, is it an OR15? Right. Is it a 100? Is it a... And those are going to react...
Exactly, yeah. Is it an OR50 with a master volume or not a master volume? Like, wildly different amps.
In the Marshall camp, is it a Plexi? Is it a JCM 2000? Is it an 800? Is it a...
GTM 45? Yeah, yeah.
And those are all similar, but wildly different in their own...
Yes.
And when I say wildly different...
Again, like I said,
it's probably not even that big of a difference.
No, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Of like I like we love as guitar players to nitpick, because that's we love this stuff, and like the discerning the differences is like half the fun of like even messing with gear. But I would say like it's also like an easy thing, I guess, to get hung up on too. Of like, because like like we were saying with certain artists, it's a real easy thing to get more hung up on like what they were using rather than like what's going to work for you to do what you want to do. And like if you just want to emulate somebody, obviously a perfectly fine thing, and there's a lot of value to that like, because like a lot of guitar players like pick on other guitar players, but I was gonna say like emulating your favorite artists, like there's nothing wrong with that, and a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, you will be a very valuable resource for somebody else down the line, because you've kind of pursued all these things and you've kind of clued them in, because like there's a lot of YouTube dudes that I got interested in that it sort of started with that of like they started on this very narrow little topic, but as time went on they kind of evolved into a full like Johann Segeborn is one that's kind of an example where like he was just kind of looking into Marshalls, and like I was watching his channel because I'm like, well, I'm never going to be able to buy this $5,000 Plexi or this $11,000 JTM45 or, you know, any of these crazy amps. So like, what's this sound like? So I at least have a reference, and that's how I found his channel. But now as time has gone on, like, you know, he's probably one of the most valuable resources for like speakers and like even understanding like speaker choice versus, you know, cabinets, closed back, open back, you know, different amps through the same speakers, different speaker, you know, just all these things. He's explored a million different things that has been really valuable to me, but it's not like he's like this crazy player.
We'll drop a link in the description for Johan's channel because it's
I love his channel.
It's a very valuable resource for hearing these amps the way they're supposed to be heard.
Yes. Well, and he provides a very, you know, like, again, like the playing is not the focus. You know, he's really kind of just trying to give you, again, a reference point for all these things. And I would say a lot of that stuff, like if there aren't people doing those things, like it's, you know, especially I would say in the States, because like we're all so spread apart compared to Europe. We're all, you know, because it's not like Sweden. Like Sweden literally, weird tidbit of information, but per capita has more Marshalls than any other country on the planet, mainly because of their recording industry. So like that was how he was able to get access to so many of the, Johan was able to get access to so many of those amps because he lives in Norway and he's able to just go over to Sweden, and or maybe he is in Sweden. They're right next to each other, but again, it's like driving across like part of California. It's not, you know, it's not a big deal for him to go like pick up an amp, whereas like we here just don't have the, you know, the access to the same things, and there's concentrations of gear kind of on our coasts. Because I would say like even growing up in Denver, it was, I don't know, for you, like it was hard to even find places that had those things to even know where to start with some of that stuff.
I mean, for the longest time, it was GC and Music Go Round.
Yeah, and even when National Speaker was around, like that, and that was a little, they've been around quite a while, but even then, like they were kind of a hard thing to get into, and like unless you knew somebody there, like it was hard to try those things. So for me, like exploring a lot of those YouTube guys that get a little bit more, I don't know what you'd call it, not really clinical, but kind of, you know, they get a little, you know, they kind of approach it more scientifically in terms of the way they're documenting things. That stuff is invaluable though for like understanding, you know, what might work for you or what sound, you know, even like you said, what does a real Plexi sound like when it's actually cranked versus, you know, what it comes like if you're just kind of running it like, you know, like we would a Fender in the room or something.
Well, and there's a comfortable level with these things where if you're playing, that you're not going to get into the breakup. It's too loud.
Yes.
It hurts.
Yeah.
It physically is painful to like get there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's something, I don't know, like that's, I guess I kind of do worry about that, or not that people need to be experiencing that pain in any way, but I do feel like that is something that is going to eventually kind of go by the wayside of like just a general understanding of big loud amps, you know what I
mean? But this was brought up a couple weeks ago on the podcast about loud amps in the room and that feeling and whatnot. And as someone who didn't grow up with that, I have no yearning for that. Super loud amps in the room, because the few times I did it, it hurt.
Sure.
It was painful. Like I was in a band and the lead singer had a JCM 900 that they were getting rid of. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go crank this thing up and see what it sounds like. And I couldn't even get it loud enough that wasn't painful. It was just loud clean. It was just louder and louder and clean.
Yeah.
And I was like, when is this going to break up? Because I can't be in this room with this thing anymore. Volume-wise.
Yeah.
Because I grew up on little amps and a pod and headphones, computer speakers, so I don't actually yearn for that.
Well, and I would say you're probably a better example, or you're able to relate more to, like I'd say, a lot of the younger players out there these days, because like I think a lot of them, like, yeah, they're familiar with, you know, with a lot of those sounds, but it is via, like you said, more modelers or things of that nature, where like yeah they understand what it is, but they might not have necessarily like tried the real thing or even something similar. Because like that is something that's hard to. I mean, real world experience is always a hard thing to reproduce in any capacity, but especially when it comes to sound, because like experiencing something firsthand is just so different than hearing either a recorded version of it or a modeled version of it. Because like you said, when it's modeled, you're kind of under the most ideal circumstances with possibly the most, depending on the modeler, but most ideal circumstances, probably the most ideal amp you could even think of. Because like a lot of times, like whether it's Strymon or UA or any of these companies, like a lot of times they're playing with about the best of the best example of that thing that they're modeling. So like a lot of times, yeah, you're kind of getting access to something that you would never otherwise be able to. But it doesn't necessarily translate to like how does the real thing behave in a room? Because that's a thing of like certain players. And I guess maybe now we're starting to get into like minutia, but like certain players, especially of certain eras, they're kind of tied to the amp, in a way. Like the amp is part of the instrument. It's part of like how they even, or like I guess Hendrix always comes to mind for this instance, mainly because like to me like he was a player. Like I guess when I got into it, everybody kept saying like, "Oh, Hendrix is the best. Hendrix is the best." And, like, I didn't know, like, right at the beginning, I'm like, oh, he's really good. I really enjoy this. But I didn't really know what some people meant until later. Like, I kind of explored more, like, what he did, what he used, how he kind of went about things. And that sort of gave me more of an, I guess, it sounds weird, but more of an appreciation for noise. And, like, some of the chaos and, like, some of the feedback and, like, some of the things that are created when you're playing, like, a loud, crazy amp with a fuzz. And, like, those things, that appreciation of that was somewhere where I got to, like, from him. And I think a lot of people do, but it's not necessarily practical today. Because, like, you're not going to have a lot of players that are, like, literally, like, even Kim Thale, like, from Soundgarden's another one where, like, he's playing the feedback off of the amp as the sound of a solo or a song. Like, that's part of it. And so, like, that's a thing that, like, some younger players may not ever arrive at those things because, like, natural feedback might not be something that they can even get. So,
yeah. Well, and I've had this thought of, like, if you're chasing a person's tone, keep in mind that sometimes they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It was, like, what was available, and there was no... oh, I can run down to the local Flipside music and try out an Orange and a Fender and a Supro and a Vox and a Black Star and a McClostone and a Rev and a 5150 and
a Bad Cat.
And a Bad Cat. You have a lot of options in a place like this. Jimmy had Fender or Marshall.
Yeah.
And he was in England, so he was kind of stuck to Marshall. Mm-hmm. So, like, at that time... Marshalls weren't in America, and Fenders, there was an embargo, right? Like, you could not get American things in England.
And I think that was kind of a two-way thing because, like, even when Marshalls were first imported, that was actually how, like, part of the whole thing with park amplification was, like, they had to make another company as a distributor and basically do it third party because at the time, like, even importing American things and exporting British things was just embargoed at the time. So
don't discount that of, like, whatever store is in your town and whatever they happen to have. Maybe
you might find yourself somewhere in that. Yeah,
that might be your tone. That might be your ticket to Tone Town.
Yeah. Well, that is actually a very good. It's a really good point because, like, when I think about, again, Hendrix or Clapton or even Billy Gibbons, as another kind of Marshall dude. I would also say, like, the sound is sort of tied to the way that bands just were at that time, if that makes sense. So, like, the volume, and that's why I'm saying even the sound that they discovered of, like, oh, this is what this thing sounds like when it's turned all the way up, because they turned it all the way up because they're playing with this crazy loud drummer. You know,
Well,
and
and
it's
they're playing in venues that don't have PAs.
PAs, exactly. And so, like, trying to
keep that in mind too. That back
That's a
in the
huge
day,
one, yeah.
the guitar amp was the PA.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, but like that is like that sound. I think is only discussed. Like if we were to reverse things of like let's say PAs existed before guitar amps did, then yeah, would some of those sounds have ever even been discovered?
Maybe not.
Yeah, because like that is something that I've always thought was interesting.
Probably in the studio.
Yes, yeah, but again, a lot of those dudes, like their sound, their approach, their style, a lot of it was from playing and kind of hashing that stuff out in front of a live audience. Even Sabbath, for instance, like I think they literally played that, like in terms of the first album that they recorded, they literally played those songs, each song on that album, more than 100 times in front of a live audience before they recorded it. And so it's like when you have that kind of, when you're rehearsing and playing in front of people, like you said, no PAs, like that crazy loud volume was kind of necessitated by the time. And so yeah, like I would say that's something that, like, the way things exist today, there's that need for that sound is not necessarily there,
and
not in the same way anyway.
And that brings up another interesting, like, well, I need to turn up my amp to get my tone. Not anymore, you don't.
Yeah. No.
So from a sound person's perspective, no, you do not. And if you're being pedantic and being like, no, but I have to turn up my twin to 5.
Yeah, it's like
to play live. Yeah. It's like, well, you need to find some workarounds, because you're going to play these venues, unless you're playing 1,000 cap and above venues.
Yeah, you're not going to,
And even then...
Yeah, you're going to be abusing the audience before you...
And that's a good point. There is your comfortability. There's the sound person's comfortability of what's going on. But you also have to remember that you're pointing a cannon at your fans' heads. Like, that...
And they may love your music and they may love you, but they might not be used to that. That is something, because, like, yeah, you're right. Like,
and if you're right up at the front of the stage and you're just getting pummeled in the face by Marshall turned up, that's all you're going to hear.
Yes, yeah.
No matter what the mix is like in the, like... You got to be... This was something else I had thought about, but, like, figuring out your sound before you get to the live place, of like balanced with the rest of the band. So,
well, I'm sure you see that all the time, but like even going to the number of shows I have, you can tell like when bands come in and they're like, no, this is the volume that we're at, and you just boost us from here.
Yep.
Versus like the other guys that are kind of like, because you do have some guys that, like you said, are almost
it's like deal with it.
Yeah, and like it's not a great approach. Yeah, because like especially
it's not collaborative. It's not.
Yeah, especially with these days, like even if you can't turn up, like there's still overdrive pedals, there's preamps, there's modeler, there's 100 million ways to get
options.
There. Yeah, so like
there's the aux box you can plug in, turn your thing up as loud, as distorted as you want.
Yeah,
and then have a master volume to like.
And even spare the sound guy, like with like a tune-ups captor or a aux box, you just give him a DI out, and like then he doesn't even have to worry about miking you. So yeah, there's definitely ways you can like work with your sound guys out there for sure.
And if you're just gonna be stick in the mud and be like, no, I turned my Marshall 100 watt amplifier all the way up, and that's up for you to deal with it, sound person. Yeah. And it's like, well, I don't have a volume down button.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's no way to physically like control you in the room. So, yeah, it's just, yeah.
And, at the end of the day, it's not a sound person versus band thing. You're all there for the same goal. And that's to entertain the crowd and have a pleasant evening for everybody. So,
well, and I would say,
evolve.
Yeah.
As a guitar player, maybe.
that or like check at least part of the ego at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely can see that, especially with what you deal with, because like I think.
And I'm in a room where You can turn your amp up.
Yes.
I allow. That's part of our. That's
part
our
of the
thing.
pro. Yeah, that's a pro of playing at the crypt. Is like you can do that.
Yeah, we allow loud amplifiers, but there is a point. There is a level of like, well, you're now just louder than the rest of the band,
Right.
and we can't hear the rest of the band. So maybe it's okay to turn down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that is some, like I said, something you probably definitely see a lot more, but it's also, I think, as guitar players, obviously we kind of romanticize a lot of aspects of things, and I would say that's probably a big one, because, like, yes, like, I personally love big loud amps, but I own a big loud amp that's also capable of being very quiet. Like, so it's like, it's one that I've chosen that, like, I don't feel like my amp requires a sacrifice in terms of sound or like what I want to do with it. Like, yes, it is big and loud. It's capable of being big and loud, but it doesn't have to be. And so, like, choosing certain amps that are good at doing those things is also, can be also a big part of it. But I think, kind of like we were saying, like, if you get infatuated with a certain player, you kind of romanticize the whole thing. And, like, especially, Hendrix or Clapton, ZZ Top, Brian May, there's so many people where you're like, oh, they're doing that, I want to do that. But again, like you said, you have to keep the whole context kind of in mind, because some of those dudes were either playing without a PA or, like you said, competing with, bigger bands or whatever it is. But, like, there was usually a necessity behind their volume back in the day, whereas, like, today that's not necessarily the case, and, like, it's just it's two different times.
In the context of the thing, Jimmy was the only guitar player in his band. Right. Eric Clapton's the only guitar player in Cream.
Yeah. Billy Gibbons.
Billy Gibbons is the only guitar player in ZZ Top. Son, that's the whole point. It's two dudes with 15 amplifiers on stage. Like, it's gonna be loud on purpose. Like, but they're also not competing with a drummer or a keyboard player,
they're not
or a
playing
horn
in
section,
a 50-person room either.
Yeah,
and, like, that's the part about, like, especially that part of it, because, like, there are some clips of, like, some of the some of your favorite bands. Like, I'm sure you can find recordings of them playing in smaller places, but, like, a lot of them still, even back then, tailored things to, like, the room they were playing in. Because, I mean, like, even like Brian May, for instance, like, everybody obviously associates him playing 6 mic'd up AC30s. Well, it's like he wasn't doing that from the very beginning. Like, when they were playing college gigs, like, he was literally just playing one AC15, and it was and that was it. Like, that was all they had. So it's like you have to kind of keep the context in mind, and, like, just because they did it one time somewhere doesn't mean that that's what they did all the time everywhere.
And also, like, when you go see, I don't know, Styx at Fiddler's Green.
Yeah.
And they have 4 Marshall stacks tall by, like, 8 wide.
Yeah.
One of those cabinets is real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
no,
that's a facade.
I still remember being at a Slayer show, and this guy was just, like, so adamant about them being, and I'm like, dude, no. I was literally, like, I don't know, 17, 18 at the time, and he's just like, he goes, no way, those are all on, they're all turned up, those are all going. I was like, dude, they would be dead if that was going, because, like, it was literally the same thing where, like, they had, the whole array of cabinets, but it's really just the front. But yeah,
and with Slayer, it's probably 2 full stacks that are on and real rocking,
and then the rest was But it's just funny to me because, like, to me, the difference with that was actually when I finally saw Sleep, because Sleep is like a band where, like, if you see it on stage, it is on.
That's a real amp.
Yeah, like, it's a real amp and it's on. It's not a backup. It's not a redundancy. It's on and it's going. So, like, they are literally, like, if you see 700 watts of amps, on stage collectively, you're hearing all of that too. And when I saw that, like, it's literally like liquid vision. And so, like, that's a whole different experience. And that part of it kind of is tied to the music. Like, that, everybody's signing up for that.
Yeah, you know what you're getting into walking through the front door.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas, like, like you said, in today's things, like, especially with a lot of us playing smaller places, like, you can't do that stuff all the time everywhere.
No, like, here locally, the Skylark, you can't play above 95 dB with your guitar amp.
Yeah.
It's too loud. It's
Yeah.
just too loud. The room is too small. The ceiling is too low. And they have a really nice, healthy PA. They can make you as loud as it needs to be in the room. But I was gonna say I'm gonna go see Sun on Monday, and I'm bringing earplugs.
Yes.
Of course, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I understand.
And you will have a full-on panic attack if you forget those earplugs.
I mean, I did the last time I saw Sun. I was like, I'm gonna do it without the earplugs at first,
just to
get the full, and then I like almost immediately was like, Where's my plugs? I need my plugs.
You're like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake.
Like that was cool, but
maybe I should reverse this. Had plugs in and then taking them out later.
Hearing tomorrow is cool too.
Yeah, but yeah, like I would say context is a big thing. And again, like I said, going back to the art, like you know, if you're gonna get that far into them, also, you know, keep context in mind. That's always a big thing because I think that's an easy thing, especially on the internet, to get out of hand as context.
Oh yeah, because I think you know, these internet warriors, some of them have probably never set foot on stage ever.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
Ever, or since like
they are the definition of
school.
keyboard warrior. Yeah,
like that is a whole other thing than standing in a rehearsal room or being in your basement playing by yourself to tracks. They're wildly different things. And if you know, I'm maybe taking a stretch that there are some of these people who they've maybe barely touched a guitar.
So,
let alone stood on stage, let alone been in a recording studio with a Marshall fully cranked and experiencing what that is. Most people's references are probably records and modelers. And so, you know, take things with a grain of salt. If somebody is just adamantly saying this is how this has to be, I think that it's probably better to take the grain of salt with this is how it has to be, because the more experience you have, the more open you are, and the more not so stuck in the road about things.
Oh yeah.
You're more open and willing to try, and like, maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's not for you. Maybe it's not so black and white.
Yeah, for sure.
It's much more of a spectrum.
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, it's one of those things. I don't know. I guess I feel like we working here with what we do. I don't know how to word this. I guess I feel like the shop, to a certain extent, because of what we have here, should sort of speak for itself in terms of like our experiences with things. Because like I know everybody doesn't know like the whole history of the shop. It's not like everybody's going to have that, I guess, on the top of context. But to me, like the shop, we have a lot of stuff here, and most of it's stuff that like we have discerned like we want to carry. It's not necessarily things, especially when it comes to amps and things. It's usually stuff we want to carry, or brands we want to carry. It's not things that were forced upon us, or are like, we're not looking at statistics of like this is the top selling, you know, combo amp of whatever of 2025, and this is what we're going to stock this year. Like that's not generally, you know, what we're doing with a lot of it. A lot of it is based on personal experience. And I would say like we get a lot of customers that like, I guess sometimes it feels as though a lot of them prescribe a lot of credentials and a lot of authority to like people that are like forums and things, and literally like random dudes on the internet,
or even ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's been coming. In terms of modern day problems, that's been coming up more and more often. And it's like, while those things can be helpful, talking to real people that actually work with the stuff every day, I feel like should have more validity than it does, and a lot of times that's not the case. Because I feel like we do get a lot of people, and I'm not getting into trying to criticize customer behavior. I'm just saying there's certain mindsets that sometimes people come in with where like they simultaneously think we should know all about this stuff, but that we're also like too stupid to like actually, it's like we're simultaneously super smart or required to be super smart and know all of it, but at the same time, like if we off step even just a little bit, we're the dumbest dumbass that they've ever encountered. So it's one of the, like, we have a lot of people that kind of feel like they enter into things with that attitude. And I would say, like, a lot of times with what we do here, again, it kind of comes into, like, we're asking questions and we're putting out options because we've played the stuff, we've seen the stuff, we've heard the stuff, we've heard somebody else use it, or we've used it. Like, there's a lot of real world experience that goes into, like, why we're not going to just be like, oh, yeah, this thing, that's what you want. Like, that's not how we do it here. It's usually more of, like, well, what do you want to do with it? That's what we'll try to find you. And I feel like a lot of people, like I said, kind of usually come in and they have these real set ways, kind of like we were talking about, whether it's set because of an artist or it's set because they read some random dude on the internet's opinion, that's the thing that they need and that's the only way to do it. And like that's just generally not the, cause especially like you said, like so many of your favorite things were born out of necessity, especially recordings. Like some of your most favorite all-time recordings, it's not like they had their first choice of everything in the world to record with. They literally had what they had, and they made it sound, or the guy that they worked with in the studio made it sound as good as they possibly could. And look, it's your favorite thing now. So like, there's a lot of validity to like doing things also out of necessity rather than just optimal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I had to take that into account at one point of just like, it's okay to just try things.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to find the exact, like, I had a digital modeler thing. And it was like, but I need a tube screamer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then turns out I didn't need a tube screamer.
Yeah.
And that modeler is great. Even 30 years on, it's like it still is. Because now I know how to dial it in.
Yes.
It's a quality piece of gear.
Well, and I would say, like, yeah, that's a lot of, almost even like the whole perception of the Boss brand is sort of encapsulated by what you just said of like, people start with it, maybe have a bad experience with it because they played it through like a really terrible amp or whatever it was, and like
you're
that
inexperienced.
Yeah, exactly. And like again, you're attributing things to that rather than like the whole context of what you plugged it into and what you were doing with it and what your knowledge base was at the time, all that stuff. And like you formulate an opinion or I would almost say like sometimes it's almost forms into an instinct. Like people's aversions to certain pieces of gear, it almost becomes an instinct rather than like something they can rationally explain to you.
Oh, don't use that brand because it was junk when I tried it when I was little.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, but that's exactly, yeah. Rather than being like, oh yeah, maybe I should have revisited that thing because when I tried it, I plugged it in through my shitty Line 6, Spider 1 or whatever, and had a terrible experience. Like,
on insane mode.
Exactly. So, yeah, and I dimed the treble and mids because that's what dude on random internet gear page forum said to do on page 8.
Or that's what Lemmy told me to do.
yeah. And so it's like there's a lot of that stuff that's still out there that like, I guess it does sort of surprise me, because like there's an incredible amount of invaluable information out there, but the amount of bullshit that still like bubbles to the top is just kind of insane. And it's like we've kind of through the whole conversation, whether it's pertaining to an artist or a song, a record, or even just a piece of gear in general that kind of has some weird mysticism about it. I think it's one of the, because like, even like the Dumble thing, like Dumbles versus Mesas versus pedals, like, there's so many things, but it's like you can get there so easily now compared to, the 80s or 90s. So it's just one of those things of like, just see what's out there, play what's out there as much as you can. And, hopefully, like, I know everybody doesn't, because, like, we're not trying to present ourselves as master players. We are mainly trying to present ourselves as people that have played a bunch of gear. We've got, a lot of life experience, especially collectively. And, like, a lot of that, to me, like I said, the more you deal with people that have those experiences, the more you realize how valuable it kind of is. And even to what you said of, like, take those things into consideration, but don't necessarily like lump all of your basis for an opinion on just one thing, whether it's a person or a forum or whatever it is. Like there's a million ways to kind of break out of that mindset of like it can only be one way or it can only be the one thing.
And that's what I love about this whole thing is there's a lot of people to check out their videos on YouTube, and you can
See how they use it, yeah.
and you can gain a really good understanding of like what a piece of gear does if you watch 10 or 15 people use it.
Yes.
Which is like my favorite thing, because then I can get a whole picture without necessarily playing it, what it would sound like in my rig.
Yeah, yeah.
Because enough people have showcased that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, to like wrap it all up, trust your local guitar store people, because they probably know a lot. The internet people are not necessarily correct.
Yeah,
And the more adamant they are on something, probably the less experienced they
Well, yeah, and I would say, like, yeah, because the YouTube experts versus, like, random gear page dude are two different things. Because, like, again, you know, a lot of, like, people that are on YouTube, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them, they, like, the accuracy or the need to be accurate is kind of built into it because their reputation, you know, hinges on it. Whereas, like, random gear page dude, like, nobody's gonna audit that dude just because he put some random post with his opinion that he literally pulled out of his ass. Like, that's never gonna happen. It's never gonna enter in. Whereas YouTube guys, like, especially if you find one that you really connect with, like, you know, that's super valuable stuff. So there's different levels of experts. That's what we'll say.
Yeah. And, you know, try things for yourself, because real world, your own personal experience is going to
100%.
speak volumes above watching 100 demos of the same thing.
Yeah. And don't let one, I guess also, too, don't let one experience, good or bad, be your final word on something.
Yeah. Because, like, maturity brings to light different things that you didn't understand before.
Mm-hmm.
Like dialing in amps and pedals and guitars, and that's why it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here with us, and we appreciate you all joining us this week on the Denver Music Gear podcast.
Yeah. And sorry if we ignored the chat. We didn't.
We forgot to put.
Yeah, we didn't have the monitor over here. So yeah. So unfortunately, we didn't see some of the chat, but we do thank all you guys for watching, and obviously, yeah, tune in for we have Maris Monday coming up again, and then we should have another gig coming out on Monday as well.
Yep.
Oh, Getting in Gear. Sorry.
And then we've got the Denver Music Gear Expo coming up June 13th. We're getting more people saying yes every day, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We've also got clinics coming up. We've got a songwriter circle happening next month. So keep up with us on the socials and our website, flipside-music.com, for all happenings.
Mm-hmm.
And
sign up for the newsletter, because Ike's hoping to use that a little bit more, especially with some of the events coming up.
yeah. So with that all being said,
Yeah.
I've been Jacob.
I've been Dylan.
And we'll catch you
On the flip
side. Play us out. Oh gosh.
Ba-da-da-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-da-da.
We'll go with this one.